Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to my Fallout 4 mod spotlight series, where today we are having a look at the Sandbag Fortifications mod, which is being made by users Nutulator and Ethrion, and what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is, well, right what it says in the name, Sandbag Fortifications, like those over there we'll have a look at momentarily. And I gotta say, I've been having a whole lot of fun with this particular mod, as it's one of the things I like doing with my settlements is building cool defensive structures, and these Sandbag Fortifications give me a whole ton of new possibilities of how to defend my different settlements around the Commonwealth. It is pretty darn cool. And plus, it actually made me think about something I never even imagined I would think about here in Fallout 4, and that's the fact that there are actually no sandbag fortifications in vanilla Fallout 4. They have to be added in by a mod, and that just seems so strange. I mean, sandbag defenses are something we still use to this day in modern combat to protect against gunfire. So apparently, in the alternate timeline that is Fallout 4, they lost that quote-unquote technology somehow, which just seems odd considering you'd think at least a group like the Gunners or the Brotherhood of Steel would use sandbags to some degree. But no, gotta have it added in by mods, and I do love it. So once you do have the mod installed, you of course are gonna have to go into the build mode to find these things, and you will find all the currently 9 different pieces under defense and in the guard post category, where we'll get a lot of just really awesome items here. Of course, at the start are 2 different camouflage nets, which are quite cool, both requiring cloth and wood. The first one here is kind of a shorter one, but a bit wider, and the second one being taller and not quite as wide, just depending on what it is that you need for your current fortification, which is quite fun. Adds a nice little roof to your defenses, and just that nice camouflage military aesthetic, which is always cool to have. The next thing we have is a camouflaged outpost, which you may notice over there on its stats provides 8 defense once you have crewed it with a settler, and I love this thing. It's pretty cheap, only needing 10 wood, and it is so much nicer looking than, say, your bog standard guard post. I mean, these work well, but I gotta admit, they're kind of boring after you've played with them on all of your settlements. You want something new, and here we go. 8 defense, a really cool camouflaged outpost for just 10 wood, and it's just an awesome little piece of work. Now the next thing we have here is a defensive barrier, which is made from 2 wood, and if we actually place one here in the world, it is made of a wood exterior with a sand interior right there for actually soaking up the bullets. And what's fun about these is, as you can see, they do click together, so you can either stack them or click them along the sides to build walls with them, which is quite nice. And what's even better is you can, if they're independent of one another, set them at different heights in the ground, so it's quite cool. So you could build a line in the front of your settlement that's a bit shorter for people who are crouching to defend, and then another line taller for the people to shoot over, etc. A very cool little piece, and has a lot of versatility. I wish that perhaps it was a bit thinner, because it is kind of a bulky object, but overall, between its stackability, its clicking to make walls, and your ability to actually set it at different heights, it is a cool piece overall. Let's actually just scrap that thing and then head to the next piece, which is a defensive position, which really is a direct descendant of our guard post here, but of course looking cooler with requiring 6 cloth, 5 wood. It will provide 2 defense with 1 person in it, and it's just nice with the cool aesthetic of these sandbags and crates. I really love this thing, but not quite as much as I love this thing. Oh, this defensive position, which requires 6 cloth, 2 wood, and 5 steel. Now, this one's got a little bit of an extra fun feature in that, well, I just like the look of it. You got the cool ammo boxes, the magazine sitting there on top of the crate. Again, providing 2 defense to anyone who, is, brave enough to go and defend this thing. So, overall, very cool. Let's scrap that up real quick and head on to the next, which is a really cool piece, and that's the Heavy Sandbag Outpost. Now, this one, like with the defensive barriers here, you can actually sink this into the ground if you so desire, if you want a bit lower of a profile, but of course, it's meant to be really brought up to about there-ish, as you can see right there, so you can stand inside of this effectively sandbag tower. And I really like this thing. And as you can see, it provides a lot of defense. 15 defense with a single settler inside, 15 cloth and 8 wood to produce. It is a very, very fun structure. I like it a lot. The next thing we have is a high sandbag wall. Again, you can sink this into the ground if you want, just for the different look of it. My one problem with the wall right now, even though I do like it, it's a very, very cool piece, is that it's not clickable or linkable. It doesn't go and link together on the sides or the top or anything like that, and that kind of disappoints me. What I'd love to see is either a nice square flush sandbag wall that can actually link together much like the defensive barriers, or maybe perhaps just a variety of different high sandbag walls that we can fiddle around with to make a more proper wall structure, because at the moment, you really can't make an actual proper wall with this thing, suffering a very much the same sort of fate as the junk fences in the defensive structures, where you just kind of gotta build them piece by piece and fit them as close as you can. It's kind of awkward, but overall, it's still a good piece that I do use quite a bit in playing around with this. And the final one we have is the Lite Sandbag Outpost, which will produce for you 5 defense with 8 cloth and 8 wood to produce it. And it's just a lovely little sandbag bunker with a nice wooden roof. All in all, a very cool little thing. And that is all of the different parts here in the Sandbag Fortification mod. And that is a wonderful thing. So just imagine all the possibilities you could have for your defenses with these different structures. Now, if we actually go over here to where I've built a few things, which, oh god, why is Preston hanging around? Oh, sir, please leave. But yes, as you can see, I have the different defensive positions set up in front with the barriers on their side, flanking them and using as a post to hold up the camouflage netting, which is quite cool. And we can actually go through the netting in the front and back, but the roof is actually solid, so it would make it a bit more difficult for, say, the enemy to throw in a grenade, which is always nice. They'd have to actually get it in here rather than just through the netting, which is good. And the defensive barriers themselves a little bit low, frankly, but, you know, if you're nice and crouched, they do provide for a very good defense there. Very fun indeed. And what's fun, of course, with the defensive barriers, as I said, you can put it at the different heights. We've got it a little bit lower here, and then even lower here, so you can kind of use them as a stepping stone onto your fortifications. And then, you know, flank it with a sandbag wall for protection. Or, of course, use one of the sandbag walls as a support, as you can see right here, for another piece of the camouflage netting. It is an option, just of one potential thing you can do. Now, I actually set up this little tower here to be a bit lower to the ground, so you do have to crouch to get into this thing, but it is quite fun. I enjoy it because I like the lower profile of it. We, of course, have then this larger defensive bit here with a settler of mine defending the facility, so you can see that it does indeed take your different settlers for defense. And then finally we have the last one of the defensive structures over here. Again, like with the ones up front, it's a little bit low, so you'd want to duck for protection, but otherwise very, very cool. Now, as for an oddity with this mod, oh boy, when you do go to download this, there are 2 different versions of the mod that exist, and it's all dependent on which one you want to get, is dependent on if you want more aesthetic or defense. And that, yeah, that's what you're down to. If you want aesthetic, you go with version 1. If you want defense, you go with version 2. And why I say that is in version 2, which of course I've downloaded here, you can't stack stuff on top of these structures. So these different guard posts here, even though they have roofs which look like you could put stuff on, you can in fact not stack anything on top of them. And that's due to an oddity with the game itself. If you want a settler inside of the settlements, they can't have stuff stacked on top of them, which is probably why the vanilla in-game guard posts don't have any form of roof. If you stack something on top of it, it wouldn't work as a defensive structure. People wouldn't be able to path it or something along those lines. So if you want the defense, you have to forego stacking. But if you rather more lean towards the aesthetic of the defensive structure, then you can get version 1, which will allow you to actually stack stuff on top of these roofs, which actually could still be defensive. Like, say, on top of this roof or the other roof over there, you could very easily put a turret onto them, which would be quite intriguing, but you wouldn't be able to put a settler in them. And so that's really the difference between the two. If you want to stack things and make it look pretty, go with 1. If you want settlers in them to actually defend your camp, go with version 2. Now, it is odd, though, as you can actually kind of float things in these camouflage nets, as you can see right here, which is just kind of strange. I don't know why you can do that, but you can if you so desire. So there you go. You can put a nice little defensive barrier halfway into a camouflage net. Little bit strange, but hey, it's a thing you can do. And yeah, that is really all I have to show you about the Sandbag Fortification. It's a really cool mod. I've really been enjoying my time with it, and just imagine all the possibilities with these things. Like if you had this thing set up more properly so it's at full height like that, looking like an actual proper tower, you could flank it with sandbag walls or defensive barriers, etc. along the perimeter of your encampment, and then have, say, interesting corner towers like this one right here for your corner defenses. All in all, just providing you with a lot of fun new options for how to defend your settlements. And I really do quite enjoy it. It's very fun. If there are, you know, the occasional weird little oddity. Can I get that thing out without getting the barrier? I think so. There we are. Lovely. There we go. But yeah, so if you would like to check out this mod for yourself, which I would definitely suggest that you go and do, it is just a whole lot of fun. You can take a look at the link in the description as always, and of course remember, between the two versions, if you want to stack stuff, version 1. If you want defense, version 2. Personally, I'd just go default to version 2, because, well, defense is where it's at, man. If you're going with a fortification mod, that's kind of what you want it for. But that is going to be it for this episode, my friends. I hope you all have enjoyed, and of course that you do come back for the next, when we'll hopefully be looking at yet another wonderful mod. But until that time, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one.